Alright, I know you all clicked on the video to hear my thoughts about cats, but I figured I'd get the less interesting movie out of the way first before we get to the huge cinematic event of the season. So, Rise of Skywalker. Before I get into this movie, I think I should refresh y'all on what I think of The Last Jedi. I don't really like The Last Jedi overall. I've grown to really appreciate what they did with Luke, Rey, and Kylo Ren. Their plotlines are really powerful and thought-provoking. I just thought Finn and Poe's plotlines were embarrassing nonsense to drag the movie down, even if they did tie into the whole failure theme the movie was going for. I'd give the movie a 5 out of 10, but I appreciate the attempts Rian made to make an actual art house picture within Star Wars, even if he failed spectacularly in my eyes. But there's one huge problem here. Rian wrote Star Wars into a corner. In my Last Jedi Infinity War comparison vid, I stated, "And it ends in a way that doesn't leave you satisfied or wanting more. You know where the story has to go from here. Kylo will be an unstable leader and his conflict with Hux will escalate. Rey will train a new generation of Jedi and build up the resistance. Rey and Kylo's forces will fight. Rey will win. The goddamn end." That would be the tired, uncompelling way to take the story. But good news! The Rise of Skywalker isn't that. Instead, it's a fanfiction that was written by an 8-year-old. And since I'm probably going to be talking about and analyzing this movie for quite some time on this channel, this review is just going to be my disjointed, spoilery thoughts. Skip to this time frame to avoid spoilers. 3, 2, 1, porgs. Like I said, it's as if an 8-year-old grabbed toys out of his bucket and made an adventure. This is the kind of story I can imagine myself making at age 8. Kylo Ren finds a super secret Sith planet where the Emperor is still alive. And he has a million ships that all have Death Star lasers on them. So Finn, Rey, and Poe go to a desert where Lando is. And he tells them go to the new ship. But Rey is walking alone in the desert and Chewbacca goes to get her. But the stormtroopers get him and put him on another ship. Kylo comes and they both use the Force on the ship. But Rey shoots lightning and it blows up. But Chewie's okay, cause he was on another ship. The movie is like this for 142 minutes. It barely has anything resembling characters. It has action figures that J.J. Abrams and the screenwriter of Batman v Superman move from planet to planet with no rhyme or reason. I actually really enjoyed the first act and its brisk pace, until I realized that I was hardly getting any substantial character moments. You know, the stuff that I really liked in Force Awakens? New characters keep getting piled on, but with no chance to grow on the audience. Finn meets another deserter from the First Order, and they get one scene to interact as people before boom, action time for the rest of the movie. No more character growth for her. Lando is thrown into the story for absolutely no reason and has practically nothing to do. Poe is an asshole for some reason. Finn and Rey don't have the same great chemistry they did in Force Awakens. C-3PO was fun, but it was just a repeat of how he acts in Empire. Kylo shows up wherever the plot needs him to, and his sudden appearance at the second Death Star was particularly stupid. Hux being the spy was dumb. Oh, I just want Kylo Ren to lose. Come the fuck on, man. What happened to being Space Hitler? Are you that much of a petty child that you're sabotaging your evil regime just to stand up to the big bully? Hux is the worst villain in Star Wars history. It's decided. The mission to rescue Chewbacca was so dumb, which makes sense because the way he got captured was equally dumb. But seriously, they just go in guns blazing and expect everything to turn out fine? Oh, good thing Hux saved your asses, dipshits. Editing and cinematography wise, this did not impress. It didn't feel like it had JJ's usual directorial flair. It just felt lifeless. Again, Force Awakens is a well-shot, well-edited movie. This movie's editing is frantic and obnoxious. What happened? The score is a greatest hits medley. There is not a single memorable new track. If this gets nominated for best original score at the Oscars, I'm gonna be fucking livid. When Maz gave Chewie a medal at the end, I said out loud in the theater, oh, come the fuck on. And finally, it pains me to say that the Emperor was absolutely stupid in this film. None of his lines are memorable unless he's directly quoting Revenge of the Sith. His presence undermines the original trilogy and the previous films in this trilogy. His undead nature is visually cool, but conceptually bizarre, and he's barely allowed to do anything before his apparently final this time demise. It's just too much. It's so obvious he was thrown in there out of a lack of imagination. And unlike the prequels, he isn't fun in this movie. I was bored by Ian McDiarmid's performance as Emperor Palpatine in a Star Wars movie. I never expected to say that. Ian's doing a good job as always, but his dialogue and the way he acts is just so boring. An unpopular opinion, but I don't actually mind mind that Rey is a Palpatine. I think it's a neat idea that the grandchildren of Palpatine and Vader are intertwined in this conflict with one another, but it's such a lame ass pull in this movie because it so obviously was never the original intention. Or maybe it was for JJ, but Ryan fucked with that notion because Disney let him do whatever because they had no fucking plan for this trilogy. Every day I wake up and I hope Disney is dead. Dead, like, if I could guarantee TaMATToa will be okay, I hope Disney gets bankrupt and then gets hit with a lawsuit and dies. I'm sorry. I mean, to quote Rich Evans, for the record, I don't think this is terrible. It's sporadically interesting. I like some stuff, like Rey and Kylo's force connection and matter teleporting powers growing. I love the design of Palpatine's lair and his creepy cult audience that feels like a twisted version of the Senate. It's pretty sick. It felt rewarding to hear the voice of Ahsoka among the chorus of Jedi calling out to Rey. And my favorite scene in the movie, the one heartfelt moment that landed, was Ben being visited by a memory of Han Solo. Despite how rushed his redemption was, hearing him repeat the lines from Force Awakens in order to make amends with his late father was really powerful. It reminded me of a simpler time when I was invested in these characters and the emotional journeys they would embark on. But this movie wasn't about characters. It was about spectacle. Spectacle so dry and lifeless that it became boring. Nothing in the third act felt earned, and I was just ready for it to be over by the time Lando came in with all the ships driven by faceless non-characters. This movie wanted to have its own Avengers Endgame moment so hard, but it didn't put in the effort, the decade worth of build-up, the emotional investment in numerous characters. 20 years from now, we're still going to be talking about what an amazing payoff and climactic moment the final act of Endgame was. And this movie will be all but forgotten. I actually think history will look back much more kindly on The Last Jedi. Hell, maybe I will too. At the moment, I still dislike it and think 2/3 of it is a waste of time. But I appreciate the artistic merit of that 1/3 and how it pushed the boundaries of Star Wars storytelling. Not everyone likes it, and that's perfectly fine. But in the end, it's kind of like Frozen 1 and 2 for me. The Last Jedi is a movie of incredible highs and insufferable lows, like Frozen. The Rise of Skywalker starts out fun until it falls apart over time, leaving me with nothing as awful as the bad stuff in Last Jedi, but nothing really memorable or exceptional either. More than any other Star Wars movie ever made, this film just rings so hollow. It left me empty in a way no other Star Wars piece of media ever has. It's better than episodes 1 and 2, but at least I'm gonna remember everything about those movies forever, if for the wrong reasons. I don't think the same can be said for this movie. If you like it, that's genuinely great, and I'm very happy you got something out of it. But for me, 5 out of 10. That's enough Star Wars for one generation.